The vote was final. 847 voices said yes. Only 3 said no. The Valaric species would be exiled from the galactic confluence forever. Elder Thelsara stood in the great chamber, her crystalline body reflecting the cold lights above. She had lived for 200 years, but today she felt every single one of those years weighing on her. Around her, the representatives of 1,000 alien species watched in silence. Some looked sad. Most looked angry. A few looked satisfied. "The decision is made," announced the speaker, a being made of liquid light. "The Valaric people brought death to our galaxy. 4 billion souls died from their plague. Whether they meant to or not does not matter. They are dangerous. They must go." Thelsara wanted to speak. She wanted to tell them again that it was an accident. The sickness had started on their homeworld naturally. They had not created it. They had not spread it on purpose. But she had already said all of this. No one wanted to listen anymore. The Confluence guards, tall beings in silver armor, escorted all Valaric from the chamber. Outside, 23 colony ships waited in orbit. These ships held what remained of the Valaric civilization. 4 million people. 4 million souls who would now drift in space, unwanted and alone. The Confluence took almost everything from them. Their advanced weapons were removed. Their best engines were stripped away. Their star maps showing safe routes through the galaxy were erased. They were given old technology, barely enough to survive, and pointed toward the edge of the galaxy. "Go to the rim," the Confluence told them. "Go where no civilized species lives, and never return. If any Valaric ship approaches Confluence space again, we will destroy it. No warnings, no mercy." Thelsara boarded the lead ship, the Crystal Hope, and watched through the viewing port as the Confluence fleet surrounded them. Energy weapons tracked their every move, ready to fire if they showed any sign of resistance. The Valaric had no choice. Slowly, their 23 ships turned away from the bright core of the galaxy and headed into the darkness beyond. That was 2 generations ago. Now Thelsara was old, even by Valaric standards. She had lived through the plague. She had lived through the trial. And she had lived through 73 years of exile in the cold, void of space. The fleet had lost 9 ships over the decades. Equipment failures. Reactor meltdowns. Once, a ship simply stopped responding to communications and drifted away into the dark. The Valaric population had dropped from 4 million to barely 800,000. Their children were born in the ships, grew up in the ships, and many died in the ships without ever feeling real gravity or breathing natural air. Thelsara walked through the corridors of the Crystal Hope. The walls were dim now. They had to save power. Young Valaric moved past her, their crystalline bodies thin and weak from generations of poor nutrition and recycled air. They looked at her with empty eyes. They had no hope. They only knew stories of planets and stars and civilizations. They had never experienced any of it. "Elder," said Keshvin, the ship's engineer. He was young, only 30 years old, born during the exile. "The FTL drive is failing. We have maybe one more jump left in it. Maybe." Thelsara felt something inside her crack. Not physically, but in her spirit. One more jump. After that, they would drift at regular speeds, and it would take centuries to reach anything. How long until it fails completely? She asked. Days, maybe a week. She went to the command center where the fleet's leaders gathered. They were all old now, the last generation who remembered planets and sunlight. They looked at screens showing their position in space. They were far from the Confluence, far from everything. "We need to make a decision," said Commander Thainver. His voice was tired. "We have one jump left. We can try to reach a dead system and hope there are resources. Or we can drift here and hope our children's children might find something. There, said Nav Officer Selmaya. She pointed at a screen. I am picking up radio signals. Primitive ones. There is a yellow star, 9 planets, and someone is broadcasting from the 3rd planet. Everyone went silent. Radio signals meant intelligent life. Intelligent life that was not part of the Confluence, or they would not be using such old technology. It could be dangerous, warned Thainver. Everything is dangerous now, Thelsara replied. We are dying here. Slowly, quietly. If we go to that system, maybe they will help us. Maybe they will kill us. Either way, it ends the suffering. Some of the council members looked shocked, but others nodded. They were all thinking the same thing. 2 generations of exile had broken something in the Valaric spirit. Prepare the fleet, Thainver ordered. We jumped to the yellow star system. Send messages ahead in every language we know. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we need help. And tell them we understand if they refuse. The 23 remaining ships charged their drives one last time. Engineers prayed to old gods that the systems would hold together. Parents held their children close. Everyone knew this was their final chance. The jump was rough. 3 ships lost power completely and had to be towed by the others. But they made it. They appeared at the edge of a solar system with a bright yellow sun. Almost immediately, alarms sounded. Weapons were locked onto them. Thousands of satellites and defense platforms in orbit around the 3rd planet had detected them. The Valaric broadcasts went out, transmitted in 200 languages, begging for mercy and help. For 6 hours there was only silence. Thelsara sat in her chamber, waiting for the end. She expected weapons fire. She expected obliteration. The Valaric had been cast out by the galaxy. Why would this species be any different? Then a message came through. It was in simple trade language, one that even primitive species sometimes knew. Refugee Fleet, this is the United Earth Coalition. We have received your messages. We are sending a diplomatic ship to meet with you. Please hold position and do not approach the inner system. We mean you no harm. Repeat, we mean you no harm. Welcome to Sol. Thelsara stared at the message. She read it again. And again. Then she did something she had not done in 73 years. She wept. Not from sadness, but from something she had almost forgotten. Something small and fragile and precious. Hope. The ship that approached them was small compared to the Valaric colony vessels. It was built from metal and composite materials, primitive by Confluence standards, but it moved with careful precision. Along its hull were painted symbols and words in a language the Valaric translators struggled to decode. Finally, the meaning came through: olive branch. Commander Thainver studied the vessel on the view screen. What does that mean? He asked. It is an earth symbol, explained the computer. It means peace. An offering of peace. Thelsara joined him on the bridge. Her old eyes watched as the human ship drew closer, matching speed with their fleet. She had seen so many species over her long life. She wondered what these humans looked like. What kind of beings lived around that yellow star? They are hailing us, reported the communications officer. Audio and visual. Accept it, Thainver ordered. The screen changed. A human face appeared. Thelsara had seen many strange life forms, but humans were unique in a familiar way. They looked soft, made of flesh and skin rather than crystal. The human had dark skin, short dark hair, and eyes that seemed kind. It smiled, showing white teeth. I am Captain Amara Oladel of the UEC diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, the human said. The translator worked well enough. We would like to send a team aboard your ship to speak with you directly. Would that be acceptable? The Valaric Council looked at each other. They were weak, vulnerable. If the humans wanted to harm them, A boarding party could do terrible damage. But what choice did they have? You may come aboard, Thainver replied. We will receive you in peace. 3 hours later, Thelsara stood in the docking bay as the human shuttle connected to their ship. She had gathered the council and some of their best minds. They wanted to show the humans that the Valaric were civilized, educated, and peaceful despite what the Confluence had said about them. The airlock opened. 5 humans stepped through, wearing what looked like protective suits but no weapons. The lead human removed her helmet. She was smaller than the others, with light brown skin and dark hair tied back. She looked at the assembled Valaric with wide eyes. Incredible, she whispered. Then louder, I am Dr. Sarah Chen, head of the UEC First Contact Division. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we welcome you to our system. Over the next 6 hours, the Valaric told their story. They explained about the plague that had killed billions. They explained how it had started on their world naturally, how they had not created it or meant to spread it. They told of the trial, the exile, and the 73 years of wandering. Dr. Chun listened to everything. She asked questions, but her questions were not accusations. She wanted to understand. The other humans took notes, recorded data, and sometimes looked sad. When the Valaric finished, Dr. Chun was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, we need to bring this to our leaders. Please, rest. Eat if you can share our food. We will return tomorrow with an answer. That night, Thelsara could not rest. She knew what the answer would be. The humans would tell them to leave. Maybe they would give them some supplies out of pity. Maybe not. But they would not let 800,000 plague carriers stay in their system. The next day, Dr. Chun returned with more humans. Some wore military uniforms. Some wore formal clothes. One was introduced as the Secretary General of the United Earth Coalition. We have discussed your situation, Dr. Chun began. We have consulted our scientists, our leaders, and our historians. We have analyzed the data you provided about the plague, and we have come to a decision. Here it comes, thought Thelsara. The rejection. The order to leave. We would like to offer you sanctuary, Dr. Chun said. Thelsara's mind could not process the words. What? Sanctuary. Refuge. A home. Dr. Chun pulled up a holographic display showing a red planet. This is Mars, the 4th planet in our system. We have been terraforming it for decades. It has atmosphere, water, and gravity suitable for most life forms. It is not finished, but it is livable. We would like to offer it to your people. Why? The word came out broken. Thelsara could not understand. You know what happened. You know what we did. You did nothing wrong, said another human, a man in military uniform. Disease is not a crime. Sickness is not evil. It is tragedy. We humans know about plagues. We have had many throughout our history. Millions of our people died from diseases that no one created on purpose. We understand that sometimes terrible things happen, and no one is to blame. The Confluence will be angry, warned Thainver. If you help us, they may come for you too. Dr. Chun looked at the other humans. Several of them smiled grimly. Then let them come, she said. Earth does not abandon people who need help just because someone else says we should. The Valaric Council met in private. The debate was intense. Elder Vestral, who had been silent until now, spoke first. This is madness. These humans do not know what they are doing. The Confluence has ships that could burn their entire world in minutes. They have weapons that could destroy this whole system. If they shelter us, the Confluence will come. And when they come, they will kill these kind, foolish humans just for helping us. What choice do we have? Asked another council member. Our children are dying. Our ships are falling apart. This is our only chance. We should refuse, Vestrel insisted. We should leave this system and spare these people the suffering that will come. Thalsara stood. Her old voice rang clear. The humans have made their choice. They know the risks. They chose to help us anyway. Who are we to refuse their kindness? Who are we to tell them their choice is wrong? They are offering us life. I say we accept it. And if the confluence comes, we will face it together with our new friends. The vote was close, but it passed. The Valaric would accept Earth's offer. When they told Dr. Chun, the human woman smiled so wide that Thalsara could see tears in her eyes. Welcome home, Dr. Chun said. Welcome to Seoul. What happens when the confluence comes? Thalsara asked quietly. And they will come. They track every exile. They will find us here. Dr. Chun's smile faded, but did not disappear. Her eyes became hard. Then they will learn something about humanity. We protect our guests. We stand by our friends. And we do not bow to bullies, no matter how big they are. You would fight the entire galactic confluence? For us? For strangers you just met? You are not strangers anymore, Dr. Chun replied. You are refugees who asked for help. That makes you our responsibility. That makes you our neighbors. And on Earth we have a saying, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. You are all of those things. So yes, we will fight for you if we must. Thalsara looked at this small human woman who spoke of fighting an empire of 1,000 worlds to protect 800,000 refugees. It was insane. It was beautiful. It was the most human thing she would ever witness. Then we are honored to call you friends, Thalsara said. The colony ships began their descent to Mars 1 week later. For the first time in 73 years, the Valaric felt solid ground beneath them. For the first time in 2 generations, their children breathed air that was not recycled. And for the first time since the exile began, they dared to believe in tomorrow. 3 years passed like a dream. New Valara rose from the red dust of Mars, built in the great canyon called Valles Marineris. The Valaric had designed it using their traditional crystalline architecture, but human engineers helped make it real. Towers of living crystal grew next to domes of human metal and glass. Gardens mixed earth plants with Valaric mineral formations that hummed in the wind. Van, who had been the engineer on the Crystal Hope, now taught quantum mathematics at the joint university. His students were both human and Valaric. The young ones did not see much difference between their species anymore. They studied together, ate together, and played together in the Martian parks. The Valaric population had grown to 900,000. Children were being born healthy and strong. The old ones, like Thalsara, walked through New Valara and wept at how beautiful it had become. Humanity had gained much, too. Valaric crystal technology improved human computers by 100 years. Valaric mathematics helped human scientists understand things they had only guessed at before. And the Valaric shared everything they knew about the galaxy, helping humanity prepare for the day when they would meet other species. That day came sooner than anyone wanted. Dr. Sarah Chun, now Earth's ambassador to the Valaric, was visiting New Valara when the alarm sounded. She was having tea with Thalsara, talking about plans for a new school, when both their communication devices began screaming warnings. What is it? Sarah asked. Thalsara looked at her device. Her crystalline face somehow showed horror. They are here. The Confluence. A fleet just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. They rushed to the command center. The main screen showed space around Seoul, and there, at the system's edge, were ships. Hundreds of them. The fleet was massive, built for war, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The lead ship was enormous, larger than anything humans had ever built. It was called the Righteous Judgment, Ang Executor-class dreadnought that had destroyed civilizations. A message came through, broadcast to all of Sol System. The being on screen was not one species, but seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting colors as it spoke. Primitive inhabitants of this system, you are harboring criminals. The Valaric are exiles, condemned by the Galactic Confluence. By sheltering them, you have broken our laws. You have 72 hours to surrender all Valaric to our custody. If you comply, we will leave your system in peace. If you refuse, we will consider you accomplices to their crimes. Your civilization will be sterilized. You have 72 hours. The transmission ended. Sarah looked at the screen, then at Thelsara. We need to get to Earth, now. The emergency session of the United Earth Coalition happened 6 hours later. Leaders from every nation on Earth attended, either in person or by hologram. The debate was fierce. We cannot fight them, argued the delegate from the European Federation. Look at their fleet. They have 200 warships. We have maybe 30 combat-capable vessels. This is suicide, so we just hand over the Valaric? Demanded the African Union representative. We gave our word. We promised them sanctuary. Our word means nothing if we are all dead, another voice said. Sarah stood. She was just one person in a room of powerful leaders, but when she spoke, they listened. 3 years ago, we made a choice. We chose to help people who needed us. Not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because it was right. If we surrender the Valaric now, what does that say about humanity? What does that say about our promises? It says we want to survive, someone replied. Survival without honor is not survival, said Admiral James Okonkwo. He was the commander of Earth's defense forces, a tall man with gray hair and scars from old wars. I have fought in wars. I have lost friends. I have made hard choices, but I have never abandoned people under my protection. If we give up the Valaric to save ourselves, we lose something more important than our lives. We lose who we are. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the vote was clear. By a margin of 92%, humanity chose to stand with the VELARIK. The message went out to the Confluence fleet 20 hours after their ultimatum. Admiral Okonkwo delivered it himself, his voice calm and clear. This is Admiral James Okonkwo of the United Earth Coalition Defense Force. We have received your demand. Our answer is no. The Valaric are under humanity's protection. We do not care about your laws. We do not recognize your authority in our system. We care about what is right. The Valaric committed no crime. They suffered a tragedy, and you punished them for it. That injustice ends here. Leave our system peacefully, or discover why humanity is still here after spending thousands of years trying to destroy ourselves. There was a long silence from the Confluence fleet. Then a message came. This time, it was not the energy being. It was a Confluence admiral, a species that looked like an insect made of metal. Its voice was cold. You are a primitive species. You have no concept of the power arrayed against you. We give you 24 hours to reconsider. After that, we will demonstrate what defiance costs. On Mars in New Valara, the Valaric gathered in the Great Square. Many were crying. They had brought this doom on their friends. Thelsara stood before them and spoke. The humans have chosen to stand with us. Now we must choose. Do we hide while they fight for us? Or do we stand with them? Young Keshvan stepped forward. I am a teacher, not a warrior. But I will fight. Earth gave me a future. I will defend it. One by one, every able Valaric volunteered. Even the old ones. Even the children wanted to help. Dr. Shar-Chun met with Thelsara that night. You should evacuate, Sarah said. Take your people and run. We will hold them off as long as we can. No, Thalsara said firmly. We ran for 73 years. We will not run anymore. Besides, you need us. We know Confluence tactics. We know their technology. And we have something they have forgotten. What? We know how to survive when the galaxy wants us dead. You gave us hope, Sarah-chan. Now let us give you knowledge. The next 24 hours were frantic. Valaric strategists worked with human military planners. They shared everything they knew about Confluence weapons, shields, and tactics. Human engineers built weapons based on Valaric designs. Factories on Earth and Mars worked without stopping. When the deadline passed, Admiral Okonkwo was ready. Or as ready as anyone could be against impossible odds. The Confluence fleet began moving toward Earth. 200 ships of war, each one capable of destroying cities. Admiral Okonkwo sat in his command chair on the bridge of the UEC carrier Indomitable. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. They were afraid. He could see it in their faces. But they were also determined. All ships, this is Okonkwo, he broadcast to the human fleet. Today we face an enemy that thinks we are primitive. That thinks we are weak. That thinks we will break because they are bigger and stronger. They do not know us. They do not know that humans have faced extinction before and survived. They do not know that we protect what is ours. And they do not know that the Valaric are ours now. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth's family. The human fleet. Just 32 combat ships and hundreds of civilian vessels converted for war. Moved to intercept the Confluence Armada. The Battle of Seoul was about to begin, and the galaxy would never forget it. The first shots fired at 0600 UTC were not from weapons anyone expected. The Confluence fleet had advanced in perfect formation, their shields glowing with power. They expected the primitive human ships to fire kinetic weapons or perhaps crude missiles. Instead, they got silenced. Then the mines detonated. Hundreds of objects that looked like space debris suddenly exploded with nuclear fury. The Confluence had ignored them, thinking they were just junk floating in human space. But humanity had spent 3 years seeding the approaches to Earth with these hidden weapons. 3 Confluence ships died in the first 10 seconds. Their shields protected them from energy weapons and plasma, but no one had told them that humans would use atomic bombs disguised as garbage. All ships, engage. Admiral Okonkwo ordered. The human fleet scattered like seeds in wind. There was no formation, no organized lines. The Confluence Admiral watched in confusion as human ships broke in every direction. Some seeming to flee, others charging forward. Still others moving in random patterns. Chaos, the Confluence Admiral said with disgust. They fight like animals. But it was not chaos. It was doctrine born from centuries of human warfare. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They knew every dirty trick, every desperate tactic, every way to make a weaker force hurt a stronger one. The Confluence ships tried to target the fleeing human vessels, but their sensors suddenly went blind. Electromagnetic pulses from human ships created walls of static. Cyber attacks invaded Confluence systems, not destroying them but confusing them, making sensors report wrong positions, making weapons target empty space. What kind of warfare is this? Demanded a Confluence captain. This is not honorable combat. But humanity had never cared about honor in war. They cared about winning. Keshvan and 300 other Valaric were aboard small assault pods, hidden among the human fighter squadrons. When a Confluence cruiser was damaged by a missile strike and its shields flickered, the pods launched. The Valaric could survive in vacuum without suits. Their crystalline bodies did not need air the same way organic beings did. They crashed through the hull breach and poured into the Confluence ship. The crew inside never expected borders. The Valaric moved through corridors, not killing but sabotaging. They destroyed control systems, cut power lines, and jammed communication arrays. In 15 minutes, the cruiser was dead in space. Its crew alive, but helpless. 12 more ships fell to boarding actions, but humanity was losing. For every Confluence ship disabled, they lost 3. The enemy had better shields, better weapons, and crews trained for centuries in warfare. The UEC destroyer, Tenacious, exploded when a plasma beam cut through its reactor. 400 souls died in an instant. The carrier Beijing lost all power and drifted helplessly. A Confluence battleship moved in to finish it, but the corvette Mumbai threw itself in the way, buying time for the Beijing's crew to evacuate. The Mumbai died in fire, but its captain's last words were broadcast across the fleet. Earth remembers. Admiral Okonkwo watched the tactical display. They were being pushed back. In another hour, the Confluence fleet would reach Mars. In 2 hours, Earth. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, "We have lost 19 ships. The Confluence has lost 32, but they still have over 160 functional warships. We cannot stop them." "I know," Okonkwo replied. His voice was calm, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Ready the Indomitable for final action. On the Righteous Judgment, the Confluence fleet's flagship, the Admiral watched the battle with growing satisfaction. The humans fought well for primitives, but the outcome was certain. "Target their capital planet," the Admiral ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment. We will destroy their major cities. That will break their spirit." But there was a problem. The human fleet kept getting in the way, throwing themselves between the Confluence ships and Earth. It was madness. They were sacrificing themselves for nothing. The bombardment would happen eventually. "Move to secondary target," the Admiral decided. The Valaric colony on the Red Planet. Destroy New Valara. Show the humans what protection costs. The Righteous Judgment changed course. Heading for Mars, its massive plasma cannons charged, ready to turn the crystalline city into dust. On Mars, in New Valara, Thelsara stood with the other elders. They watched the tactical feeds. They saw the giant ship coming for them. "We should evacuate," someone said. "No," Thelsara replied. "If we run now, the humans died for nothing. We stand here. We show them that we are not afraid anymore." Dr. Sarah Chun stood beside her, refusing to leave even though she had been ordered to Earth. "Together," she said simply. "In space, the Indomitable was already damaged. The carrier had taken 3 direct hits. Its shields were gone. Half its crew was dead." Admiral Okonkwo had ordered all remaining personnel to evacuate, but many had refused. "Sir, the Righteous Judgment is moving to fire on Mars," his tactical officer reported. Estimated time to firing position, 6 minutes. Okonkwo looked at the display. The enemy flagship was enormous, protected by shields that human weapons could barely scratch. But those shields had a weakness the Valaric had told them about. They were designed to stop energy from outside, not from inside. "Set collision course," Okonkwo ordered. "Full power to engines." "Sir, that is suicide," his second officer said. "Yes," Okonkwo agreed. "But it is also victory. Evacuate all remaining crew." "That is an order. I will pilot her myself." "Sir, we refuse," said his tactical officer. 20 other bridge crew members nodded. "You need help to keep this ship on course if they try to shoot you down." "We stay." Okonkwo looked at them. Young and old. Men and women from a dozen different nations. They all wore the same expression. Determination. "It has been an honor," he said. The Indomitable turned and accelerated. The massive carrier, already dying, used its last strength to build speed. Faster and faster, directly toward the Righteous Judgment. The Confluence Admiral saw it too late. "Stop that ship!" He screamed. Energy beams hit the Indomitable. The carrier's hull melted under the assault. Sections exploded. But it did not stop. It could not stop now. Admiral Okonkwo activated the broadcast system one last time. His voice reached every ship, human and Valaric, in the system. To the Valaric people, this is Admiral James Okonkwo. You asked us why we would fight for you, why we would die for people we barely know. The answer is simple. Because it is right. Because when you see people suffering and you can help, you help. That is what makes us human. Earth keeps its promises. We will protect you, always. The Indomitable hit the Righteous Judgment's shields at full velocity. For a moment, nothing happened. The shields held. Then Okonkwo detonated the carrier's reactors. The explosion happened inside the shield perimeter. All that energy, all that power, had nowhere to go but into the flagship itself. The Righteous Judgment's shields overloaded. Its hull cracked. Secondary explosions rippled through its massive structure. The flagship did not die immediately, but it was crippled, dead in space, leaking atmosphere and bodies into the void. The Confluence fleet stopped advancing. They had never seen anything like this. A species that would sacrifice their own lives, their own ships, not for victory, but just to protect others. In the Confluence fleet, descent began. The insectoid species had agreed to this war, but they had been told it would be quick, clean, a simple matter of punishing criminals. Now they saw it for what it was. Genocide against people who wanted only to survive. This is wrong, said the captain of a Confluence destroyer. She was from a species that valued honor above all. These humans fight to protect the weak. They die for refugees. And we come to slaughter them for it? I will not continue. Her ship broke formation and withdrew. Others followed. First a few, then dozens. Nearly a third of the Confluence fleet refused to continue. Some species even turned their weapons on their former allies, demanding the attack stop. The Confluence fleet fractured. Ships fired on each other. Orders contradicted orders. The perfect formation became chaos. Seeing their chance, the remaining human ships pressed the attack. They were broken, bleeding, barely functional, but they fought on. After 16 hours, the Confluence fleet retreated. They left behind 47 destroyed ships and took their crippled flagship with them. But before they left, the Confluence High Command sent one final message to Sol System. You have defied the Confluence. You have harbored criminals. You have destroyed our ships and killed our people. By unanimous vote, humanity is now exiled from galactic civilization. Your system is quarantined. Any human ship that leaves Sol space will be destroyed. You are alone now, just like the Valaric. And you will die alone. Admiral Okonkwo was dead. The Indomitable was gone. 19 ships had been destroyed. 40,000 humans and 1,200 Valaric had died. But Earth had kept its promise. In New Valara, Thelsara and Sarah Chun watched the Confluence fleet disappear into FTL. They held each other, both species crying for their dead, but also feeling something else. Pride. They had stood together. They had refused to abandon each other. And they had survived. 5 years after the Battle of Sol, the solar system looked very different. The memorial stood on Mars, just outside New Valara. It was made of both human metal and Valaric crystal, rising 200 meters into the thin Martian sky. Carved into it were 40,000 human names and 1,200 Valaric names. Every person who had died defending their new home. At the top of the memorial, in letters large enough to be seen from orbit, were the last words of Admiral James Okonkwo. Earth keeps its promises. Thelsara stood before the memorial, her crystalline body now nearly 400 years old. Beside her was Dr. Sarah Chun's granddaughter, Ambassador Maya Chun, who had taken her grandmother's place when Sarah retired. Together, they watched as thousands gathered for the anniversary ceremony. The crowd was mixed. Humans and Valaric stood together, but there were others now too. Species that Thelsara had never seen before. There were the Kelth, a species of small furred beings who had been exiled for refusing to fight in the Confluence's wars. There were the Morveni, silicon-based life forms cast out for demanding equal rights. There were the Sith, who had been labeled criminals for trying to preserve their dying language. All of them had heard the story of Soul, the story of how humanity had stood against the entire Galactic Confluence to protect refugees. And they had come, hoping for the same mercy. Each one had been welcomed. The Soul Refuge now houses 17 different species, Maya Chen said to the assembled crowd. Over 3 million people who were cast out by the galaxy. And every single one found safety here, in our system, under our protection. The crowd cheered. Humans and aliens together, their voices mixing into something beautiful. Keshvan, now a senior engineer and professor, stood with his students. Half of them were human children learning Valaric mathematics. He had lost his first bonded mate in the battle, a Valaric woman who had been aboard the Beijing when it was destroyed. But he had found love again, this time with a human woman named Rachel. They had a daughter together, the first human Valaric hybrid child made possible through genetic engineering. Her name was Hope. Professor Kess, one of his students, asked, "Why do you think the Confluence was so angry about the plague? Other species must have had diseases." Keshvan thought about this carefully. The Confluence believed in order, in control. The plague reminded them that some things cannot be controlled. That scared them. So they found someone to blame, us. It made them feel safer. "But that is not fair," another student said. "No," Keshvan agreed. "It is not fair. But humanity taught us something important. When you see unfairness, you have two choices. Accept it or fight it. The Valaric accepted it for 73 years. Then we met humans, who chose to fight. Behind Mars, hidden in the asteroid belt, construction continued on what would become humanity's true defense. The shipyards there were building vessels using both human and alien technology. Ships that combined the best of 17 different species. The Confederation of Soul, as they now called themselves, was preparing. The Confluence had quarantined Soul, but that quarantine went both ways. The Confluence ships could not enter to see what humanity was building. In the 5 years since the battle, human science had advanced by centuries. Valaric crystal computing had merged with human quantum systems. Kelth biology had improved human medicine beyond recognition. Morvani manufacturing techniques had revolutionized production. And most importantly, all these species shared something the Confluence never understood. They shared purpose. They all knew what it was like to be cast out, unwanted, abandoned. And they all remembered who had taken them in. Maya Chun walked through the memorial with Thelsara after the ceremony. Around them, families of every species enjoyed the Martian afternoon. Children played in parks where earth plants grew alongside alien flora. Restaurants served food from 17 different worlds. "Do you regret it?" Maya asked. "Coming to Soul? Bringing the Confluence's anger down on us?" Thelsara's crystalline face could not show expressions the way human faces did, but her voice carried all the emotion she felt. "Every day, I wake up and I see what we built together. Every day, I watch our children play together. Every day, I remember that 73 years of exile ended the day we met your grandmother. Do I regret it? No, never. The Confluence will come back eventually," Maya said. "The quarantine cannot last forever. They will want to know what we are doing here." "Let them come," Thelsara replied. "They will find something they do not expect. They cast out the Valaric because we made them afraid. They cast out humanity because you defied them. They cast out all these other species for various small crimes. But in casting us out, they gave us each other. And together, we are stronger than we ever were apart. That night, as the Martian moons rose over New Valara, an alert came from the edge of the solar system. Long-range sensors had detected ships approaching. Not Confluence vessels. These were different, smaller, damaged, running from something. The message they broadcast was in a language the translators struggled with, but eventually the meaning came through. Please, we are refugees. The root species. We were cast out by the Confluence for trying to preserve our genetic diversity instead of conforming to their standard. We are 300,000 souls. We are dying. We heard stories of a place called Sol, where the unwanted are welcomed. Please, help us. Maya-chan looked at the message. She thought about her grandmother, who had made the first choice to help the Valaric. She thought about the 40,000 humans who had died to keep that promise. She thought about what humanity had become. The choice was easy. Send them coordinates for Mars orbit, Maya ordered. Tell them they are welcome. Tell them Earth keeps its promises. And prepare New Valara to receive them. We have room for 300,000 more. The response went out across space. And on the refugee ships, the Hruth people wept with relief. They had been cast out by the galaxy. And like so many others before them, they had found humanity waiting with open arms. Thelsara stood at the window of her home, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Confluence continued its business. They cast out those who did not conform. They punished those who were different. They created exiles and refugees. But here in Sol, those exiles built something new. Something better. A confederation not based on conformity, but on acceptance. Not based on power, but on compassion. Not based on fear, but on hope. The galaxy had cast them out. Every species here had been unwanted, unloved, abandoned. But humanity had welcomed them. All of them. And in doing so, humanity had taught them something the Confluence had forgotten. That true strength is not in weapons or fleets or laws. True strength is in standing together, in protecting the weak, in keeping promises even when it costs everything. Sarah thought about that first day, when the Valaric fleet had arrived in Sol, desperate and dying. She thought about Dr. Sarah Chun's words, "Welcome home." Two simple words that had changed everything. The Valaric had been cast out by the galaxy. Humanity had welcomed them. And now, together with all the other species that had been rejected and exiled, they were building something that would shake the foundations of the Confederation itself, a place where the outcasts belonged, a place where the unwanted were treasured, a place where promises were kept, no matter the cost. Sol, the refuge of last resort. The sanctuary at the edge of civilized space. The home of the exiled. And as more refugee ships appeared on the sensors, coming from across the galaxy, all carrying the same desperate hope, one thing became clear. The Confluence had made a terrible mistake. In casting out the Valaric, in exiling humanity, in rejecting all those who were different, they had not destroyed their enemies. They had created a new civilization, one built on the ashes of rejection, one forged in the fires of defiance, one that would stand as proof that compassion was not weakness, and that mercy was not foolishness. The galaxy had cast them out, but in being cast out together, they had found something far more precious than the Confluence's approval. They had found each other. They had found home. And that, Thelsara thought as she watched another refugee ship enter Sol's embrace, was worth every moment of exile, worth every hardship, worth everything. Because at the end of the day, the Confluence had taught them all one final lesson, though they never intended to, that sometimes the greatest gift the galaxy can give you is to cast you out. because only then do you discover who your true family is. Only then do you find where you really belong. Only then do you come home.